Y'all nerds have probably already heard about the infamous Polybius arcade machine. At this point, it's literally everywhere. Even today, people are still talking about it. But today, I don't really want to talk about whether Polybius was real. I want to talk about something way more interesting: why people genuinely believed it. There are basically 5 major reasons why the Polybius story felt believable to people at the time. So let's jump right into it. In the late 70s and early 80s, law enforcement was already warning about gambling devices disguised as harmless amusement machines. One of the most well-known examples involved pinball machines. In official FBI bulletins published at the time, authorities warned that some gambling devices were intentionally designed to look almost identical to ordinary pinball cabinets. To most people, they looked like normal arcade games. But behind the machine, some were secretly being used for illegal payouts and gambling operations. The line between entertainment and illegal activity was already becoming blurry. At the same time, arcades were increasingly being monitored and investigated by federal authorities. So when people saw men in suits walking into arcades, checking machines, writing things down without explanation, rumors spread fast. Which is why one detail in the Polybius story felt strangely believable: mysterious men collecting data from arcade cabinets. In 1975, Congress exposed MK Ultra, a real CIA program where the government secretly experimented on people using LSD, hypnosis, psychological conditioning, and behavior control techniques, often without consent. Some subjects were manipulated for weeks. Others were unknowingly drugged. Thousands of classified documents were finally declassified in 1977. So when rumors started spreading about a mysterious arcade cabinet that caused psychological effects on kids, people didn't hear it as impossible, because the government had already proven it was capable of things that sounded insane. This was probably what Polybius became most famous for: the idea of a game so dangerous it could actually kill you. But at the time, arcades themselves already felt overwhelming. They were packed with kids, loud noises, cigarette smoke, and rows of flashing CRT screens running nonstop for hours. Games with intense vector graphics, like Tempest, were especially notorious for making some players feel physically disoriented. In fact, early versions of Tempest reportedly caused motion sickness because of its fast-spinning visuals. And around the same time, medical reports had already begun documenting cases of teenagers suffering seizures while playing arcade games. One of the famous examples was the Peter Burkowski incident, where a 1982 teenager collapsed and died after playing Berserk inside an arcade. Another case in 1983 involved an 8-year-old collapsing after playing an arcade machine before later suffering a convulsion. There were probably many similar incidents back then, like kids getting sick, dizzy, or blacking out inside arcades that were never widely documented. And because of that, the idea of a mysterious arcade game causing death didn't sound completely impossible to people at the time. This one is a no-brainer. Even today, people get addicted to games all the time. But back then, the fear around arcade addiction was on a completely different level. Parents, politicians, and news stations were already calling arcade games as dangerous, addictive, and corrupting to children.
Physically, you can become physically dependent upon it because you get an arousal. And
some cities even tried restricting or shutting down arcades entirely because they believed kids were becoming too obsessed with them. So it was obvious that people remember Polybius caused an obsessively addiction. In the early 80s, arcade cabinets were constantly being swapped, converted, or replaced. Some games only stayed popular for a few months before operators moved on to the next machine. Bootleg cabinets existed. Conversion kits existed. And local arcade owners often changed games overnight without anyone thinking twice about it. Many old machines were eventually stripped for parts or abandoned completely. So the idea of a mysterious arcade game suddenly disappearing without a trace didn't sound impossible at all. But in hindsight, people turned that normal disappearance into mythology. So now you know why Polybius might have been the internet's first real Mandela effect. This was before the internet stressing about whether Pikachu had a black tail or whether the Monopoly man had a monocle. Not because people believed it existed, but because thousands of people somehow remembered the exact same feeling around it. Almost every part of the story was connected to a real fear people already had at the time. But again, this is all just my own opinion based on the research I found. If you like this type of content, make sure you watch my previous video where I take a deeper look on the hot coffee mod. See you guys in the next one.